I, 23 female, and my sister, 25 female, have always had a good relationship. That's until she began a relationship with her now husband, 25 male. I never really knew what started the downfall, but through lots of thought and intervention from friends and family, I know it's because he had a crush on me when we were teens. We all went to the same high school. I was quite happy when she introduced him to the family, since she had some rough times in her life, and she seemed super happy with him. A plus was that he was much nicer than her other boyfriends. But as we continued to see and talk to each other at family functions, she just kept getting more cold towards me. It was a surprise when I got invited to the wedding, let alone as the maid of honor. I thought maybe she knew she was in the wrong by being jealous for no reason, since I had no plans to try and steal him from her, or even bring up his high school crush on me. But once plans for the wedding began, that's when everything goes downhill quick. She had made plans for the dresses. Everyone's dress was to be low cut and fitted, but I was to wear a scoop neckline and long sleeves. I accepted because I was doing whatever I could to get my sister back. Then everyone was to wear extravagant makeup with bright colors, yellow and pink, while I had to wear the minimum of that, more natural looking. I felt really out of place, but I'd do anything for my sister. The wedding went smoothly. Everything went to plan. Everything was beautiful. But then the reception came, and my sister was mad at literally everyone, not talking to me and trying to outcast me even more. I eventually pulled her aside and asked her what I did wrong. She completely went off and yelled at me about how her husband had always had a crush on me and how I shouldn't have even been at the wedding, and it was only for the family that I was even there, since apparently my mom forced her to make me maid of honor, and how apparently her husband was looking at me the entire time. Me, being the sarcastic person I am and being completely done with her BS, had the fantastic decision to say, well, it's not my fault I'm prettier than you. I left right after that, and later got a bunch of calls and messages from family and friends saying that I need to apologize, and that she shouldn't have had to feel bad on her wedding day. I've been thinking about apologizing, but I also believe she deserves it. So, am I the a-hole? Should I apologize? Ain't no way she's getting married to a person that she thinks doesn't even love her. Not the a-hole. Girl needs to get her priorities straight. I'm going with not the a-hole. Your sister deliberately tried to make you look uglier than everyone else. She knew that her husband had a crush on you in school. Before she got married, she knew that he still had a crush on you because she saw it at family get-togethers. Pushing you away didn't take his attraction to you away, so she made you wear a different dress and makeup. She shouldn't have married someone who would trade her for you in a second. Everyone sucks here. Sister obviously sucks for blaming you for her husband's wandering eye. But your comment was not sarcastic. It was just mean. You could have taken the high road, been the better person, but you showed your mean side. Makes me wonder if there are other reasons your sister doesn't like you. You should have just asked her how this was your fault, pointed out that you had kept your head low, and followed her every request. That way, you would have come out on top. Update. So I took some of your advice, and I told those who said I should apologize that I wouldn't until she did first. She never did and still claims she was in the right. Obviously, what I said wasn't worded right, but in my defense, I didn't exactly have time to think about it. Now, about her husband. They are still married, and he's trying to get her to see her wrongs. He genuinely is a great guy and barely remembered me until we met. He really does love her. I mean, with the whole way he talks about her and the whole marriage thing, it's impossible for him not to. Some people are mad at me because I talk to him, but I really didn't see the point to stop since he doesn't see me like that. If anything, he sees me as his new sister. My girlfriend Liz, 34, and I, 35 male, have been looking for a house for about 6 months. We all know the market is terrible, and we went in knowing it would take a while. Her sister Sarah, 30, and fiancé Matt, 34 male, started looking at the end of April. This is important because they had their first bid ever accepted after looking for 2 or 3 weeks. Sarah and Matt invited us to come see the house a few days before their closing. We met at their mom's house and followed them there. I noticed, though, that the direction we were taking was familiar. I asked Liz about it, and she said the same thing. Sarah was jumping up and down in the garage singing, "I have a house," while Matt was standing in the corner laughing. I looked at Liz and could tell she was livid. Her face was red. She just got back in her car. Her sister asked what was wrong, but she refused to answer her. I told Matt that this was a house we placed a bid on and lost to a last-minute offer. Their offer. Fast forward to today. Sarah and Matt close tomorrow. I just got an angry call from Matt asking where I got off, demanding he and Sarah back out of the deal so Liz and I could have the house. I had no idea what he was talking about. He said Liz called Sarah, telling her the house should be ours and that they knew we had been looking much longer. I was furious and didn't blame Matt at all for calling me in anger. I told him I didn't know she did that. It sucks we lost to her sister, but it wasn't malicious and they didn't know we bid on it. Well, Liz didn't like that I wasn't on her side. I told her she was wrong, and she said she couldn't believe I wasn't as mad as she was. I was disappointed, but not mad. It is what it is. We'll get a different house. She huffed and went to our bedroom. But it gets better. Our agent called me after I confronted Liz and told me that the seller's agent said the seller rejected our new offer. I asked what he meant. He said Liz had called and offered a higher amount. In our state, realtors have to present all offers up until the papers are signed, but ours would be accepted if the buyers backed out. I told our realtor what happened, and there was an awkward silence before I told him to not worry about it, but we weren't bidding on that house any further. As far as I know, neither Sarah nor Matt know that Liz tried to outdo their bid today. I confronted Liz. I think she needs to let it go, and I told her she's coming across very jealous and vindictive. She said she isn't. She went on a rant about how even though Sarah is younger, she was getting married first, got her career started first, and now she's getting the house first. A house that should be ours because we bid on it first. I told her this behavior is not attractive at all, and she needs to grow up. She says I'm being an a-hole and being passive when she's morally right. Her best friend and her cousin also agree, but her mother and both my parents think she's being ridiculous. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and big yikes. I get that it is a super stressful time, and her sister having luck makes it close to home and triggering, but this is kind of alarming behavior. I mean, your girlfriend made a pretty big financial decision that directly involves you without saying a thing. You might want to consider renting and get a feel for if you want to buy a house with someone who does that sort of thing. My dude, please rethink this buying a house right now. Girlfriend needs therapy, and also maybe get to know each other better. I wish I had been given this small advice before I married my ex. Your girlfriend is exhibiting a worrisome behavior. Actually, several. The one I dislike the most is her lack of communication and how her judgment is sorely lacking here. She went behind your back, OP. Not once, but twice. Not the a-hole. And if she gets therapy for this jealousy and y'all are still together, build a house that can have everything y'all want. But don't rush into buying a house, especially right now when costs are so insane. Not the a-hole. She is being jealous and vindictive and very childish. Well, I was here first. I saw it first. Sarah and Matt didn't know you bid on that house. We're close to winning. They saw a house they liked and put a bid in and won. Life's not fair, and it doesn't work in order. That's just how life works. You get what you get. Is she upset she lost that particular house, or upset her little sister got something she didn't? What's next? Will she want a baby just to say she had one first? Also, her going around behind your back to put a bid in for a higher offer doesn't bode well for your relationship. That was a unanimous decision she made by herself. Depending on how much extra she raised her bid, could you even afford to go higher? I, 26 male, was at my mom's side of the family's Thanksgiving this Saturday. My mom has 3 siblings, and I have 8 cousins on that side of the family. I'm the second oldest cousin. I have a 27-year-old cousin. Call her H. Her mom is my least favorite aunt. My uncle who was married to her was my favorite uncle, but they divorced 3 years ago. So now it's H, her sister and aunt, that came. My cousin married a guy 2.5 years ago. We hit it off, and so did a lot of other cousins. He was well liked, and I hung out with him outside of holidays. 2 years ago, my cousin out of the blue divorced her husband and moved in with some other guy within a week. I learned that this dude was engaged at the time this happened. I learned my cousin had financially ducked her ex over too. He had a house whenever they got married. They get married, and he put her name on the title. She left. He couldn't afford to pay her out, so he had to sell the house and pay her with those proceeds. She also cleared out their shared bank account. Last Christmas, I ignored H, and so did most of my cousins. I'm at Thanksgiving Saturday, and H shows up with her new guy. Me and my cousins went to our table to eat. H sat with the parents. My aunt came over and asked me to talk. She claimed I was leading the cousins against H and her boyfriend, as her boyfriend felt unwelcomed, and I needed to change that. I said I was good. I wasn't shunning, but I didn't duck with her daughter anymore, and to drop it. Night goes on, and my aunt started drinking. H tried talking to me, and I told her straight up, listen, I'm not about drama, but I don't duck with you anymore. Please talk to someone else. H went and cried to her mom that I was picking on her and encouraging her cousins to as well. Her mom came downstairs where the cousins were hanging out. Convo followed. Aunt, I think you need to leave. You're causing drama. Me, it's my parents' house. I don't think that's your call. She called me a mooch because I was drinking my dad's beer. I live on my own, have my own job, car, and house. I said, maybe the reason your daughter is such a crappy person is because she learned it from you. Speaking of mooching, aren't you on alimony? Everyone went silent. My aunt said, you have no idea what you were talking about. I said, you haven't worked in my lifetime and yet still have a house. I know you take alimony, so maybe shut the duck up. My aunt stormed upstairs. My mom came down and said I needed to apologize. I said I'll just leave. So me, my brother, and a few cousins went to a bar. I guess everyone pretty much left shortly after. My parents said that my aunt was 100% out of line, but I crossed it and need to apologize before Christmas. I said I'll just skip family Christmas this year. My dad pulled me aside and said my aunt was 100% in the wrong, but my mom is trying to play peacekeeper, and he gets why I snapped at my aunt and laughed about it. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You're not wrong here, and you do not have to apologize for treating someone in the same spirit as they did you. It sucks that this took over as a highlight of the event, but sucking it up to be polite either applies to everyone or no one at all. Not the a-hole. So much family drama, but you just were upfront and to the point. If they had respected that you had no desire to talk to them, then it would have ended there. Make alternate Christmas plans and enjoy. Not the a-hole. People like H cheat on their spouse and expect everyone to just forget and accept. You didn't play the game. Good for you for sticking with your integrity. Cheating affects the whole family. For context, my 29 male, wife's 28 female, family are wealthy. They also live in a cheap area, so their money tends to go over even further than it would elsewhere. Wife and brother-in-law, 23 male, went to elite private schools, had 3 tropical holidays a year, luxury cars bought for them at 18, etc. It may be relevant later that I'm from a working-class background. My wife and I live in a major city, whereas brother-in-law lives rurally about 15 minutes from his parents. Brother-in-law is a small business owner. I gather he's decent at what he does, but he's been heavily bankrolled and supported by my father-in-law, who is retired but works 4 to 5 days a week with brother-in-law for no compensation. Father-in-law gives brother-in-law a nominal share of the company outright. I've recently started a side business which is doing quite well. I've got enough extra cash to treat my wife and I, and also look at some investment opportunities. This came up at dinner with my wife's family recently, and brother-in-law suggested buying property to rent out. I had looked into this already, but ruled it out, partly because the financial upside, in our part of the world, current economic climate, didn't look to be great for the effort involved, and partly because I'm not morally comfortable with the idea of being a landlord. I'm not extreme in this view, and think there is probably a place for private landlords, but it's something I'd avoid putting upon myself when I have better alternatives available. I explain all of this, and brother-in-law essentially blew up. I had no idea, but apparently his whole end goal is to make enough money to buy enough rental properties to make that his full-time occupation. I said again that this was good for him if he could make it work. No skin off my nose, but he kept on his rant and about how I was a privileged elite, city living, university degree, and an idiot for not properly taking care of his sister. I explained that we're more than comfortable as we are, and that my wife is both perfectly capable of looking after herself and also makes all of these decisions jointly with me. At some point, I must have hit a nerve because he kept on with his tirade and started down the track of knowing the value of money and how my wife and I were morons for not going into property. Admittedly, I snapped at that, and this is where I might be the a-hole. I told him that he has no idea the value of money, that he's the product of immense privilege, has never paid his own bills, and only has a business because of daddy's input in bankrolling. At this point, my mother-in-law and father-in-law called time on dinner and suggested that we leave. We've never butted heads like that as a family before, so I think it came as a shock to everyone. My wife gets my point and is glad I stood up for her autonomy, but wishes I'd tried harder to keep the peace. She always says I pressed on brother-in-law's insecurities. Being a self-made businessman is his whole identity. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Brother-in-law kept pushing after you clearly wanted to drop the subject. Not only that, but by criticizing your lifestyle, he opened up his own for criticism in return. It sounds like the family is used to putting up with brother-in-law and his tirades, and don't expect people to stand up for themselves against him, which should track based on him being the golden child. Not the a-hole. He turned your debate into a personal attack on all fronts. He insulted your intelligence, your upbringing, and your relationship. You did attack him back, but only referred to his upbringing and financial situation, and I think that was more than justified. Your wife needs to understand that keeping the peace should never come at the cost of letting people insult you. Not the a-hole. Brother-in-law's insecurities are his own responsibility. It isn't on you to appease them or enable his crappy behavior.